Well, you know what? I think it's time to stop talking about these roller coaster rides and theme park rides and actually review real cinema. My name is Tom, and this is my review for the brand new Martin Scorsese movie, The Irishman. Have you guys seen The Irishman? What have your thoughts about The Irishman? Make sure you jump down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts so we can carry on the discussion right down there. Also, remember, hit that subscribe button and do ring that notifications bell so that you never miss out on my take on all things movies. So The Irishman was directed by Martin Scorsese and stars relative unknown actors such as Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. This was a movie that had a lot of anticipation around it because, of course, it is the return of the team up between De Niro and Scorsese. We haven't seen that in a very long time. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a big Martin Scorsese fan in general. Like, I'm just not a fan of those types of movies in particular, but I do certainly appreciate them. And there are a few of his films that I enjoy very much. And initially, I wasn't going to watch this film just because the 3.5 hour runtime was very off-putting to me. You know what? I sat down today and I suddenly had this thought. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to watch it. I'm going to watch it because I should talk about it. So I watched The Irishman. Look, this film, I'll say this right off the bat, I enjoyed this film. This film is very, very good. Pacino, Pesci, De Niro are all fantastic in this film. I think De Niro is probably the best he's been in a movie in quite a long time. And he hasn't exactly been picking the greatest roles as of late. The last movie I really enjoyed Robert De Niro in and thought he gave quite a profound performance was in a movie in 2015 called The Intern, which is a movie that I just absolutely adore that film. But other than that, he's been making movies like Dirty Grandpa. So it was really nice to see A-grade kind of De Niro again and a real return to form for him in this film. And he's fantastic throughout the entire movie because he is like the lead of the movie. I really don't have that many criticisms of this movie. I have to say, surprisingly for me, just because I know my tastes and this movie doesn't really appeal to those tastes. I don't think it's making my top 10 of the year list. In fact, it's probably not going to make my top 10 of the year list. But as far as enjoyment levels, I enjoyed The Irishman. I think from a directing standpoint, this film is beautifully directed. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is breathtaking. It really is. And the film has such a nice mix of dramatic and then the mobster element and the grittiness, but it's also quite funny. And that was something I was kind of surprised about. Like, this film actually has a decent amount of humor in it. And there are some violent scenes that are also quite humorous as well, which I kind of really appreciated. And of all of his films, The Irishman feels like the most Scorsese movie you could ever get. Because I'm watching this film and I couldn't help but notice all the other little influences from every other film he's done, from Wolf of Wall Street to Silence to Goodfellas, all these other movies, and you can see influences that he's drawn from his other work and put into this movie. It's like all of his other movies sort of combined into one and you get The Irishman. And I've seen that criticism like floating around, like this movie just feels like another Scorsese movie. People say that like it's a bad thing, and I could see why if you don't like Scorsese movies in general, then I could see why you could watch this film and be like, oh, it's just another mobster movie from Scorsese. And I have to say, I agree with those people. It is another Martin Scorsese mobster movie. But I actually look at that as a positive because look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's very good at making these types of movies. And this movie turned out very well, but it is 3.5 hours long. That is literally the biggest, one big only thing wrong with this film. It is 3.5 hours, and honestly, I struggled to sit long enough. Now, look, I get it's on Netflix. You can pause, take a break, get up, come back. But between this movie, It Chapter 2, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this is the third time this year that a movie has just been obnoxiously long for no reason. And I think even when you're Martin Scorsese making a movie and you know it's going to be 3.5 hours and you go and you pitch it to studios, I think you have to be a little bit more understanding as to why they might not pick it up. Because the story goes, Martin Scorsese took this to every major studio in Hollywood and they all passed on it. And I can't help but wonder if they saw that this film on paper was going to be a very good movie, but they were like, we can't put a 3.5 hour movie into theaters because we're not going to get our money back on this. Now, in saying that, it is a 3.5 hour movie, but I wasn't really bored at any point watching the film. But I did notice that there were quite a few scenes, a good like half an hour's worth, I think, of scenes that could probably be lifted out of the film. If this film was cut down to at least 3 hours, maybe 2.5, 2:45, I think this movie wouldn't skip a beat. This movie would be a lot tighter, a lot shorter. But that being said, the film is still very entertaining, even at 3.5 hours, but you are conscious of how long you've been sitting there watching the movie for sure. I do want to talk about Ray Romano for a second, because I couldn't help but have a big smile on my face just watching the scenes between Ray Romano and Robert De Niro, and the fact that I was watching the Everybody Loves Raymond guy sitting across from one of the greatest actors of all time in a Martin Scorsese directed movie. That is just fucking mind-blowing to me that we have Ray Romano in a Martin Scorsese mobster movie acting alongside Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. That's crazy to me. And it really does show how far Ray Romano has come as an actor, starting off in his hit sitcom, and now he's doing movies with Martin Scorsese. It's crazy. Okay, let's talk about the de-aging technology that was used to de-age our main stars of the film. Look, when I first saw those trailers and we got our first glimpse of what the de-aging technology was going to look like, especially on De Niro in that first little teaser trailer that we got, it looked fine. It wasn't the best I'd ever seen it, but in the fully finished film, the CGI, the de-aging technology actually didn't take me out of the movie as much as I thought it might, because I understand that Netflix put up the money for this film and they might not have put up as much money as a major studio would have to get the de-aging exactly to the point of, say, where the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies get it. And I was a little worried that their faces were going to be a little bit wobbly or it was going to look weird, but honestly, it didn't. And I think one of the techniques they utilized in this film is yes, you've got the de-aging technology, that works, but it doesn't work on its own. I think the other thing they utilized was, hey, let's age De Niro up in the scenes where he's supposed to be older. Let's really age him up, because he's, of course, narrating the movie. So the fact that they aged him up a lot more and then on top of that used the de-aging technology in the scenes where he's younger, you combine those two elements and those two techniques, and I think you end up with a very convincing de-aged Robert De Niro. I actually quite appreciate this film. I really do. I think the amount of things that are in this movie, the layers throughout the film, just the small little details in a Martin Scorsese movie that you might not notice the first time you watch it. I certainly picked up on a few things, but you'll have a character that'll mention some guy that he met on the street once, and then it will cut to a flashback of that guy, and there'll be text coming up on the screen as that guy's talking. It will say so-and-so shot in the head on this date. It's just those kind of things that really help make this movie what it is, and help make it as entertaining as it is, because honestly, with a 3.5-hour mobster movie, how entertaining can that be? Especially to someone like me, who these types of movies don't really appeal to me that often. But I would say The Irishman is definitely worth checking out on Netflix for sure, if you can handle the 3.5-hour runtime, because I know that it's going to be off-putting to a lot of people, and it was almost so off-putting to me I almost didn't watch it, but I'm very glad that I just decided to watch the movie and forget about the 3.5-hour runtime, because this is definitely a movie that if you're a Martin Scorsese fan, you need to see. Because as I was saying before, I think this really is it really feels like the ultimate Martin Scorsese movie. It's like the culmination of his films. And I would also encourage any fan of comic book movies or Marvel movies who was, who took a stand and said, I'm never watching anything Scorsese does ever again because he said he hates Marvel. If you're feeling that way, then I would encourage you to check this movie out anyway. Look, whatever you think about his comments on Marvel, and I don't agree with those comments either, he is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and he's made a very good movie in The Irishman. So I would encourage you, check out The Irishman. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. Take breaks whenever you need to. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of The Irishman if you've seen it. Make sure you jump down there so we can carry on the discussion. Also, remember, hit that subscribe button, ring that notifications bell so you never miss out on my take on all things movies. My name is Tom, and I will see you guys next time.